Hello and welcome to the Uke Guide Ukulele Review Series. I'm continuing to review ukuleles and to put them on a Uke Guide. You can actually download it by going to ukestuff.info. And on the Uke Guide, what you'll see is sort of a review of a ukulele in one condensed format, sort of like you can buy an appliance and they have the energy guide. So it's kind of the idea of putting it together. So today's instrument that I'm going to be reviewing is this one. It's the Pocket Ukulele, the KA-PU, which stands for Pocket Ukulele, -SSTU solid spruce travel ukulele. Now, if you know the travel ukulele, those travel ukuleles have an arched back, generally a solid spruce top, although they're making a few different models, and they're pancake thin. Apparently in Hawaii they call them pancake models. Just watched a review, or actually a podcast with the ukulele site. They do a ukulele review podcast, and they were interviewing and talking with some of the brass of KA-PU, including Mike Upton, who owns that. And they apparently the travel ukuleles and ukulele are called pancake ukuleles because they're so thin. They're thin as a pancake. So with that in mind, this is an instrument that they used to make, and then they made a run of them also for Mim's ukulele. So they made these, and then Mim contacted them and said, "Do you think you guys could make a special run for me?" And then she special ordered a set of them. They didn't say Mims or anything. They just said Pocket Ukes, and she sold out all of those too. So this instrument is no longer available new. It was about a year ago. This is 2019, mid-2019. So in 2018, they were still available, and who knows, Mim may someday buy another set, or if there's enough demand, KA-PU may make another set. But I think it was kind of a novelty originally, and then for some people, kind of a travel uke. And I have no idea how many of these are made, but if you look at my tenor travel uke, it's very much in the same family, and it's intended to be so. So originally, at least most recently, these were being sold for about $200 at Mim's Ukes when she had them custom made. And they came along with a really nice KA-PU gig bag. In fact, it's the little brother or little sister of the larger travel uke. So you get one of these with a standard travel uke as well. Soprano, concert, tenor. I think they even have a baritone now. So with that in mind, it's really meant to be just like the others, except smaller. And the catch is, at $200, there are some other sopraninos around that are of lesser value, all the way down to the caramels that used to be sold for about $30. So that is one of the rare negatives about this instrument, is that perhaps it was overpriced for what you're getting, because you can get a number of full-sized, decent ukuleles for the price that you'd pay for this. So you kind of have to want it and have a purpose for it, either as a collector or as a novelty or as a travel item to get it. So that kind of is a knock there. The build quality is very good. If you know KA-PU, generally they make really solid instruments. Clean build, spruce top, one piece, laminate mahogany back and sides, very attractive. You the neck, there's a joint up there, can't really tell on the heel, and again it's that thin line construction, but it does not have an arched back. That would have been really interesting if they could have done that, but they didn't do that. And I am running Fremont black hard strings so I can tune it into the key of C. Otherwise you have to tune these smaller ukuleles up to make them sound good. Now, the appearance is pretty plain, so the novelty will be the size, maybe even the tiny little headstock, which even seems smaller than usual, and that's what will get people's attention, is kind of some nice pearloid markers there on the front, but otherwise it's pretty plain. The one thing that is really interesting is how you tie the strings. If you notice, you tie the knot and then pull it through and up, and that's kind of a neat construction, and I wonder if that could ever be used on larger ukuleles too, because I mean, it's not just a simple tie the knot in the bottom slotted sort of bridge, which they could have done. So I've never seen that on any other ukulele, so I'll just leave it at that. The availability, there's quite a few of them out there, so you might be able to find one used, but you won't find them new. And in playability, they actually have a wider nut than you would think, which ends up in some better spacing, so it's a little more playable for a tiny instrument than you would think. The sound quality, it's louder than you think. It's not complex, it's not rich, it's not luscious, and that's what you kind of would expect when you have that big of a sound chamber for the body of your instrument. So it's on the louder side, partially because of that spruce top, and it's definitely on the bright and punchy side. But if you hold it away from your body, you do get a little bit of a dark overtone every now and then too as well. So the scale length is Sopranino. It's 11 inches from nut to saddle with 12 frets all the way down. Side marker dots are there, and the body style is a traditional double bout. The soundboard is solid spruce. The back and sides are laminate mahogany. Currently, the fretboard is rosewood, and most of these that you'd find would have a rosewood fretboard because Cala has not started remaking them, and then they'd have to make the fretboard out of something else. Again, you have a rosewood bridge that has that unique tying system in there. It's a flat, non-radius fretboard with a tusk nut and saddle. The saddle is not compensated. It is what it is. The finish is sort of a satin, sort of a flat satin there. The overall length is only 16 inches, and it weighs just under a pound, which is pretty cool. The tuners are open geared. The action is at the first fret is probably a little bit high. It's a little bit higher than 0.5 millimeters, so at some point I might want to go in there and adjust that. The action at the 12th fret, though, is at 2.5 millimeters, which is nice and low. The nut width is 34.81 millimeters, which is pretty common for an instrument. And the space at the first fret between strings is 8.62 millimeters, pretty common for a soprano. And then about 27.5 to, well, it's really 27.68 millimeters between G to A, as long as you have it tuned in G to A. And the depth at the third fret is 21 millimeters, so it's actually kind of a little tiny bit shallower than your traditional Cala, but it does have that normal sort of C or D shape neck. And the thing that will generally impact you is getting used to putting your fingers on the frets that are so close. And I really like sopraninos, not only for traveling, but I do think that when I practice with a sopranino and I go to a larger instrument, I've learned to be a little more careful and more precise. So I think that's another reason to consider buying one of these. Now, for the record, I did not buy this for $200. Someone locally here in the Minnesota Twin Cities area had it listed on Craigslist, and they were asking $90 for it, and I wrote and said, yeah, I'll buy it. So I went to meet them at a local mall to buy it, and then I had to stop at a cash machine, and at the cash machine, I couldn't get tens out of it, and I didn't have any place to get change. So when I met him, I said, I've got, $100, you have $10 of change, and he didn't, so he just took $80 for it, and that was it. And he said that he played it at work but just needed some cash and just didn't really want to play it anymore. So I walked out the door with this for $80. So I didn't buy it for $200, and at $80, that starts to match or exceed the value of what you pay for it, especially with a nice gig bag. But at $200, it's kind of a question. So here's what this guy sounds like a little bit. Has some actually nice reverb for a little instrument. Sorry about that. So it's a legitimate instrument. You can actually play it. It doesn't have to be just a novelty. And as for example, if you're not just traveling with it and taking it with you, that you can fit it into a suitcase or something. It's great for as a teacher to go and into a classroom and sing happy birthday to a student. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. So it's really a great kind of fun thing to do. So overall, if you can find one and it's decently priced, you should be able to get a discount on a used Cala. I mean, that's the way that it goes. I generally try to pay no more than 65% of the original selling price, not even the MRSP, but sort of the original street price when I buy a used instrument, no more than 65%. And if it's something that you want specifically, then feel free to pay more, but that's generally my rule of thumb. If you can find one, they're great, and they come with that nice little suit or little gig bag and everything. So how would I rate it? I would give this one also about 3 ukuleles out of 5. It's not a perfect ukulele, again, but it's very functional for what it is. It's fun to have. There are other instruments that might be worth having above it, especially at the price cost, and that's really the thing that really drives it down to a 3. It isn't the build quality. The tone is what it is for a sopranino, but really it's little maybe overpriced for what it is. But again, if you're a collector or you're into a novelty instrument, it may not be too much to spend, especially considering how much people spend on other things. Like we were looking at bikes the other day, and some of those electric bikes start at about $4,000. Well, you can buy a lot of ukuleles for $4,000. So as a hobby goes, yeah, it can be expensive, but it also isn't as expensive as some other things. So thanks for watching this review of the Acappella Pocket Uke, the KA-PU-SSTU. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.